We're going to talk about sponsoring a successful John Birch Society speech. And I'll primarily be addressing John Birch Society volunteer leaders. People who are chapter leaders, have been speech chairmen, and potential leaders who are now the spark plugs of their area, and the people who want to be successful at running public programs. Since 1971, my wife and I have participated, with the able assistance of our dedicated members in the Albany, New York area, in the sponsoring of from 1 to 3 speeches a year and many other public programs. It's come up to about 75 to 100 speeches that we've worked on, and the speeches have had audiences that ranged in size from 60 people to 650 people. But consistently, in the last few years, we've been having attendance of about 200 to 300. You know, we're in upstate New York, and I often hear people say, you can't do something like this in my area. You may be able to do that where you are, but we can't do that where we are. Well, the fact of the matter is we live in upstate New York, near Albany, New York. It's a tri-city area. It has a declining economy. The major employer is the state of New York. We have liberal colleges, we have an aging population, we have a big welfare area, and we have all the other things that indicate that it would be the least likely place for a successful John Birch Society event. So I do tell you this, that if we can do it where we live, you can do it where you live. Well, the mission of the John Birch Society is to bring about less government, more responsibility, and with God's help, a better world by providing leadership, education, and organized volunteer action in accordance with moral and constitutional principles. So why would you want to have a speaking engagement? Why would you want to go to all the work that's required? I listed a few things that I think are important to the benefits, that are the benefits of having a public speaking engagement. First of all, it says, here we are. The John Birch Society now is visibly displayed before the community. It gives an awareness to the community that the John Birch Society exists and that we are doing something. And many people, frankly, just don't know that we're around. The speech provides a rallying point for people of like mind to gather together. It becomes a place to be. Enthusiasm is generated among members and leads. When you sit in a successful speaking engagement and look around, you say, I am not alone. New prospects are generated, and members have an event for their prospects, friends, and relatives to attend in a very non-threatening environment. Oftentimes, people will not come personally to your home or to meet with you privately or to see what you're all about. And a public forum provides that. But the flip side of this is that the impression we create at a public program must be positive. We also inform the audiences on an issue. We translating into calls made to talk shows, letters to the editor, and a larger base of influence in the community. The attendees go home with piles of literature, audio and video recordings, pamphlets, etc., and they communicate with those that are not at the event. We have an advertising program where we get support from the business community, and this builds this support. And it gives them a knowledge that the John Birch Society is doing something. It gives you some media opportunities, a possible radio show or a newspaper interview. And follow-up programs after the speech lead to new members. Also, it adds, and we'll talk about this in a minute, to a growing database of prospects in your area. Well, should you sponsor a speech? You have to ask some hard questions. Is the membership of your area committed to doing the work necessary for a successful speaking engagement? Are they reliable to do this, in spite of all the other demands on their time? Do you have 10 or so members that will put a significant portion of their free time over a 3-month period into a speech effort? Are they committed to producing an audience of 100 people or more? Do you have the financial resources? Well, what we do first is, and I'll talk a little more about a timeline and an organization, planning of a speech, but let's talk a little bit about the speaker and the topic. What's hot in your area and on the national scene? Can you promote this topic? We sponsored Dan Sheehy last year speaking on illegal immigration. It was the very week that Governor Spitzer proposed easy driver's licenses for illegals. And you know what happened to Governor Spitzer. Didn't have anything to do with driver's licenses, but there was an uproar. Our area is the state capital. So it was perfect timing, it was a perfect issue, and it was great response. Does the speaker have a history of presenting a dynamic, well-organized talk? Have you talked with other committees who have sponsored this speaker? Have you heard a tape or seen a video of the speaker? What do your members think about the topic and the speaker? Are they excited about getting to work to produce a large audience? What is the speaker's availability, cost? Do they match your needs? And then look over the speakers on jbs.org and talk about what would be best for your area and the topics that are hot in your area. Create a budget. This happens to be our budget for one of our speeches. You need a budget. You need to know what your income and your potential income and your expenses will be. The vital component of success for our speeches is something we call ticket commitments. Well, you might ask, what is a ticket commitment? Well, let me tell you, first of all, without them, our speeches would be low in attendance and would lose money. What is a ticket commitment? It is a guarantee of payment of a certain number of tickets, whether or not they're sold, from our membership. A guarantee up front. I'll take 5, I'll take 10, I'll take 20. This is how our members vote whether they want to have a speech. And our minimum target is 200. If we don't have commitments for 200 tickets, it's unlikely we will do the speech. Up front. That doesn't mean the money has to come in up front. The promise does. The commitment does. And this is all done prior to making a commitment for the speaker or the hall. A successful speech requires the commitment of members and supporters to advance sales of the tickets. In other words, selling the tickets before the talk. Set the price of your tickets based on the market system. Most members will commit, in my experience, for around $25 or $30. So, would you rather have 200 people at $5 a person or 100 people at $10 a person? We are advocates of keeping the price low so members commit for a large number of tickets and sell a large number of tickets. The speech should be focused on new people and not to entertain the membership who are more than willing to cough up $10 to see a speaker. So the ticket price is nominal to attract new prospects and to make sales by the members as easy as possible. So, consider a target of 200 advanced ticket sales. If you're doing your first speech, perhaps 100 is more realistic. Ticket commitments are vital to a speech's success because now it is everybody's speech. Not just the program of the volunteer leadership or the JBS coordinator. To sponsor a talk, advance commitments ensure that you make the budget. Ticket commitments encourage the members to sell tickets that they have already committed to buy, and it will encourage them to phone their prospects and to make the sale. Commitment means ownership by the members of the talk's success. And we go the next step. You might say we take it to the extreme. They sign a piece of paper saying they're pledging that. They commit in writing. They agree to pay in advance of the event. And at the same time, we ask, and you can see this form, whether they will help us secure advertisements for the evening, printed program, and whether they will volunteer to take a list of 30 names to phone. This tells us that everyone's behind the project with their money, their energy, and their time. Consider having an ad program. A program selling advertisement will bring in additional monies to help you meet your budgets. Ads should be sold for a low price in order to obtain lots of ads that create an appearance of support for your speech by the business community you're in. Very few businesses will refuse you if a business card size ad is $20. It also allows members and supporters to advertise themselves with a patriotic quote or a statement of support. We do the ad program ourselves. We set it up on Microsoft Publisher, take it to a photo offset, have it printed off. Costs about $1. We have regularly about 50 to 60 advertisers. Where do you go to get an ad? Well, you go where you leave your money. I tell the members, go where you leave your money. Your insurance agent, the guy you bought your last car from, the local pizza place. Places where you regularly and routinely leave your money. You don't go and hit up, the local major supermarket chain or the multinational corporation. By the way, we put a lot of other pertinent information in the program. Every program has a JBS application for membership. And it has pictures of the literature that are available at the book table. Select a location. Cost must meet your budget. We spend as much as $600 for our hall. It's the picture on the right, which is the Marriott in Albany, right near the airport. And if we're going to have smaller crowds, we use the Hilton Garden Inn, which is the other picture. Pick a central, well-known location to your probable attendees. Easy access, major highways. Attractive, well-lit, good parking. Best is likely to be a newer hotel or an upscale chain. Pick a ballroom without a sound wall, if possible. If you know what sound walls are, they're the walls that slide between rooms. You get somebody with a wedding reception on the other side and a rock band, and it can damage your whole evening. We have used rooms in many business hotels, Hilton Garden Inn, Courtyard, Comfort Suites, whenever we're doing audiences of 100 or less, and this is normally for our videos. Check out the PA system. Lapel microphones are best. Do you have control over the PA volume? Is there enough room for literature tables in the meeting room? Is there a room for a registration table just outside the meeting room? Is the podium attractive? And is there a good backdrop for the speaker? Size the room so that it will be at least 2/3 full. Plan to set chairs for only the number of tickets you sell in advance plus 10%. Set up theater style to place the audience close to the speaker, not like looking down a tunnel in a room. Negotiate for the price of the room. Don't pay any service charges. Pick the day of the week when the rooms don't get a lot of use, and you'll get a good price. A Monday evening is good. But pick the day and the time after you've evaluated the least conflicts with your hardworking members and your possible attendees. Remember, the impression of the talk will be associated with its location. And what kind of an impression do we need to create? Well, first of all, we need to create an impression that the John Birch Society does things first class. So, evaluate and decide whether you should have a speech. Notice we haven't yet decided to go ahead. So now's decision time. Consult with your field coordinator. See if he thinks you have enough support to have a speech. Review the results of your ticket commitments. Review your budget. Do you have enough people carrying the load? And don't wishful think it into success. If everything looks good, go for it. Because successful speeches create encouragement and activity, increased interest from leads, and more membership. We have a timeline. We start about 12 weeks prior to the date of the speech. The least we start is 8 weeks. One thing you should notice from this timeline is that we have many, many occasions on this list. at 6 weeks, at 5 weeks, at 4 weeks, at 3 weeks, at 2 weeks, at 1 week, when we're phoning our prospects. These are multiple calls. If people give us a maybe, they get called the next week. Only if they give us a no do they not get called again. You know how to print flyers. You know how to do the composition of a flyer if you need to. You know about ticket distribution. And perhaps I'll mention a little bit about record keeping. We keep detailed records on every ticket sold so that we have the information, name, address, phone number, email address, on every person who buys an advance ticket prior to the speech. Not at the speech. No handout, follow-up, contact cards. No, we already know who they are before they come. So it's only the at-the-door people that we're interested in logging in. Well, you're going to make travel arrangements for the speaker, the usual things. You're going to make out a schedule for the speaker and present the speaker with the schedule when they arrive. You don't make the schedule so tight that transportation becomes a problem. I just want to mention that most speakers want to stay in a hotel. We pick business travel hotels like Hampton, Courtyard, Holiday Inn Express. Then they have the internet. They have breakfast included. They have a place to eat meals if they wish. And this simplifies all the attention that you have to give to the speaker during the period that they're in your area, because you have other things to do. You have to get the audience out, and you have to coordinate that evening's talk. You don't need to be driving around socializing. So you want to give the speaker plenty of time before the speech to rest and to collect his or her thoughts. And you want to have one of your committee members pick the speaker up and get them to the speech an hour before the talk. We have a database, an Access database. Some of you are familiar with that. It's right on the Office, the Microsoft Office package. And we maintain a list. We keep complete contact information and history on all prospects. Every speech they ever attended, every book they ever bought goes into our log. We want to know everything about them. If they're a prospect, when we go to contact them and we go to sit down and visit with them, we want to know what books they've read, what speeches they've been to, what other times we've reached them. The database is critical because this is your building for the future. And it needs to be a dynamic database. You can't be afraid to take people off either. But you can't take them off too quickly because they may be single interest people. And your particular talk or event on that single issue only comes around once in a while. Do you keep seat warmers on this? And by seat warmers, I mean people who have come to your speech for the last 20 years, they never intend to do anything? Yes, because they warm the seat. They allow you to present this talk, and when others look around, it's a crowd. So they have a value. So yes, if people continue to participate, even if they're not activists, we continue to keep them on our list. Well, we mail out flyers. Our flyers look like this. This is the one for John McManus speaking on October 27th of this year. It's a long flyer. We make it this way so that it's a self-mailer. It has a bulk mailing permit. It asks for donations. People who can't come, send us money. Now, our speech is October 27th. We've gotten about $400 in donations this way so far. So we got a lot of the speech, a good portion of the speech paid for long before the speech. This is the first mailing of a flyer. We mail twice. After our members have phoned everyone on the list, they tell us who are the yeses, meaning I want to come and I will buy a ticket, and who are the maybes, and who are the no's. We scratch the no's, and we mail again to all the yeses and maybes, about 2 weeks before the talk. We also include in this mailing a number of things. There's a speech flyer. There's a pre-addressed return envelope. A cover letter. Why, personalized cover letter. Why do you need to come? What's so important about this speech? We address them directly. An advertising form we send out to everyone on our list. advertise in our program. And we just received a number of ads as a result of just soliciting through the mail. Perhaps sometimes we'll mail an inexpensive piece of literature on the topic of the speech. And really to get the mailing out, well, how do you get the mailing out to 1,000 people? We have a party. We get everybody over to my home, around the dining room table, have refreshments, stuff envelopes. Took us 2 hours to get 1,000 mailers out. 6 weeks before the speech, and we start phoning prospects within 3 days of the mailing going out. The best time to phone them is when they just got it in the mail. You don't wait 2 weeks when they forgot about getting it or threw it out. We start phoning, 5 to 6 weeks prior to the talk. We train our callers. We give them a script, and we train them to that script. Well, why would you do that? Well, it's very easy for a John Birch Society member to get off the topic. Their goal is to get people to the talk. Their goal is not to give them a complete lecture on the Illuminati. Their goal is to get them there, and the answer they give to every question is, our speaker will be explaining that. We'll see you there. And they personalize that discussion. This is the record. This is the list that our callers get. It tells them name, address. They confirm the address. It tells them what speeches people have come to before. It gives additional comments like the spouse's first name, things like that. And then they check yes, no, or maybe. And they write down the dates they called them. And then they solicit their email address. So we come back with another piece of information to be able to enrich the database. So the report that a caller would give, and we have about 14, 15 callers in our area, and they phone and they ask if the folks are going to come. They try to follow the script, and they get back a yes, no, or maybe, and that's really what we want to know. Now, if people say yes, then you close the sale. You get the ticket, and you get the money in advance. If they say maybe, the caller is instructed to say, may I call you back in another week or two to remind you? If they say no, and and oftentimes people have very good reasons, conflicts and things, well, they don't come off the list. They just don't get called again for that talk. Ticket sales should be reported to an individual who's accumulating all the detailed data. Now you have a complete listing. Before your speech of all the tickets sold, the names, addresses, phone numbers, and emails of all pre-sold tickets. This means you don't have a problem registering people the night of the talk. You've already registered them. And you don't have to worry about finding out who's there. You're only faced with formally registering people who show up at the door to buy a ticket. So the end result should be detailed information on everyone. Remember that your members should make sure the little stubs on the tickets are filled out properly. And if someone buys more than one ticket, you want to know everybody. Because sometimes they write their own names on the 5 tickets that they sold. You want to know everybody that came. Hope I'm not getting into too much detail for you. So what do we do the evening of the talk? So now you have sold 200 tickets, $1,500 worth of advertising, you've done some radio ads, and you're ready for the night of the speech. Here's where you start getting the benefits of all the hard work that you've put in. And now you can directly impress your prospects. Be organized, be early, and be in control. No wandering in 15 minutes before the talk and yelling, testing 1, 2, 3 into the microphone. No setting up books after people are already coming in. The chairs should be set up theater style with a plain wall behind the speaker. You've set the number of chairs you have advanced ticket sales for, plus 10%. And of course you have your flag and your lapel mic, and you've tested the PA, and you have a riser for the speaker. So if the speaker's elevated, above the audience. And the screen used for the PowerPoint part of the talk, the presentation, is elevated along with the speaker. Outside, you have a registration table. And you put ladies behind the registration table because you can actually read their writing. And people coming who are signing up, and again, we've done some radio ads, and we've been using this to great advantage. So we'll get 60 or 70 people who've never been out to anything. And so they're walking in, what do I think about this? Now I've walked in, it's the John Birch Society. If a lady says, could I have your name and address and phone number and your email? They say, oh, sure. But if I asked for it, they'd say, no, I don't do that. I don't want to get any mail. I don't want to get an email, etc. So have ladies at the ticket table and have the ladies do the registering and the writing. You don't let the lead sign in. It'll be illegible. And it might say Mickey Mouse. So the ladies register the folks. What we do is send everyone to the registration table because we want to confirm that we have complete information on everyone, even pre-sold tickets. Nobody gets in, gives the ticket to the usher, and walks in. Everybody goes to the registration table. You have greeters and ushers who stand at the door. They hand out a program, your ad program, perhaps another piece of literature, and they thank the folks for coming. They thank them for being there. They don't stand there cold with a fistful of these things and like this. They thank them for coming. They help them find a seat. They welcome them. Again, what are you trying to create? You're trying to create an image, an impression that is not the caricature that people would expect to see of us. Literature table. I'm an advocate of a big literature table. All right? Now, we have maybe a dozen people selling literature behind the table. And we have an array of literature. And my experience is this. Even though I do have a couple of tables of literature that is prescribed just for that talk and focused on that talk, there are other things. They will find books for kids. They will find books about economics, even if it's not an economics talk. They'll find books on foreign policy. They will find the other books that we recommend. Because I really want them to get an impression that the John Birch Society has some depth. We didn't just get you out here to get you riled up about illegal immigration. We're deeper than that, and we're thinking seriously about all the issues of the day. We have a worldview, and here it is. The book table's open about 30 minutes before the talk, which means that setup is an hour before. And after the talk, the members are at their places behind the table selling as the audience leaves. And we manage the flow of people so they have to pass the literature. Not off in some corner somewhere. And the literature is in the room, not out in the hallway. It's where the people are, not where they have to go. The evening of the talk, all members who have responsibility, and we recommend that you give every member a job for that evening. Every member has a job. They're either an usher, or they're working at the book table, or they're working at the registration table, or they're asked to circulate and greet people, or they're helping to give people rides, or they're helping to get there an hour early and set up the place and making sure everything is fine. But they all have a job. Everyone has a reason for being there. And while we're not elitists, and we're not, we do have standards. And we should display those standards at our talk. Members should never stand around talking to each other. Oh, hi. let's talk about the latest conspiracy theory and not talk to the people who are the very people we're putting this program on for, and those are the new people. So we encourage our members, circulate, welcome them, go up and down the aisles of the chairs and say hi. Thank you for coming. Not stand in a corner and talk to each other. We give scripts for each person at the podium, and we ask them to be prepared. No off-the-cuff remarks. We pick a well-spoken person for Master of Ceremonies, and they should be capable of preparing introductory remarks. They should be capable of pitching the literature that's for sale and capable of giving a close for membership at the end. The MC has an agenda. Part of that agenda is to start on time. If the start time is 7:30 p.m., then at 7:30 p.m., you make the announcement that everyone should now be seated. We're going to start in 5 minutes. Welcoming comments, introducing the clergyman for a prayer and a pledge, some positive things to say about the John Birch Society that sets the prospect at ease, thank the advertisers, pitch the key literature before the talk. You don't have time to pitch it afterwards. They're running out the door. When that speech is over and that standing ovation is given, they're out. And they're going to head for the book table and while you're talking. Call on a person to do the introduction. They should be a good speaker, but they don't have to necessarily be a member. It should be spirited, building up the speaker in the mind of the audience so that the audience is encouraged to give credibility to what the speaker has to say. Remember, the introduction is not a speech. The Master of Ceremonies makes the pitch to join after the talk, but we all know from experience that you need to be realistic enough to know that the follow-up in the weeks following the talk is when you're going to sign people up, not at the talk. We have no question and answer period. It lengthens the program with extraneous comments by people who want to utilize your audience for their own agenda. So, the MC can mention that the speaker will stay around for a while to answer questions at the front of the hall after the speech. And of course, we ask them to join at the book table. We have more applications there. And we tell the audience, we're going to be following up with you. You will get a call from us in the next couple of weeks. You know, what's the prospect saying to himself? The person who came to our speech saying to himself, you know, okay, what do I do about this burden that you've just laid on me? You've laid this burden on me of all these problems in America, or a particular problem. What do I do about this? So you best put the next step before them, in the closing remarks. You tell them clearly what you want them to do. If I've heard complaints about our speeches in the past, it's always been, well, you did a great job defining the problem, but I think your solution is weak. So measure your success quantitatively and qualitatively. How many people came? How much literature did you sell? How many good prospects did you get for follow-up? What needs to be improved the next time we have a talk? Evaluate what you think was the prospect's experience. Was the location easy to find? And you go down the list of things that you wanted to do. Now let's talk about, just mention follow-up activities. Immediately after the speech, what do? You phone everybody. How'd they like the talk? And can we come and see you? We have found our best and most effective follow-up to be this. Make appointments for the field coordinator. Prioritize the speakers, the prospects, and then take your best ones. Pick the best 30 out of this group of 200 that came, and set up appointments for your field coordinator, 1-hour appointments. We just did that. Hal Shurtleff was in the area. Signs up about 70-80% of the people that we can sit them down with. And so this is the key to your follow-up. And we use about 3 or 4 of our very, very best callers to make those appointments. Radio advertisements are effective but expensive. What shows to pick, what times of the day to run them, what frequency to run them, and then what you can expect for results. So it's a process. Ticket commitments, building a large active database, phoning and following up every lead, getting advanced ticket sales, selling before the talk, not at the door. Contact information comes into you on everyone. You make a lot of literature sales, and you prioritize and follow up all your best leads. A simple process. What kind of results do you get? 200 to 300. This is what we get. 200 to 300 at every speech, 60 to 100 new prospects at each talk, somewhere around $1,000 in literature sales, success that leads to the enthusiasm of your members, new members, and influence and presence in your community. So when you sponsor a public program, what the John Birch Society is visible. It's reaching out, it's developing, it's educating, it's leading the community, it's influencing people, it's recruiting, it's encouraging to ourselves and to others, and it's activating those who want to do something. So I encourage you to do this. And I encourage you to have public programs. There has never been a better time in the history of the John Birch Society than to do it now. And you'll get a wonderful response. So thanks so much.